We are going to welcome Dan, who is talking about surfing the black wave of AI and breaking down some of these strategies for success. Dan?
Thank you. All right, can we hear my, all right, we got sound. So I'm going to talk about surfing the black wave. A lot of people say, that sounds scary. That's the intent. It's supposed to sound a little scary. We've got a lot of things shifting in the marketplace. We've got AI that is talked about as a scary thing. But I want to give you another picture, maybe of something not so scary, maybe surfing. Because there is a way to survive change, and not only survive, but thrive in change. And the concept of surfing the black wave was a book I wrote recently. It was launched in this idea that the advertising industry on Madison Avenue is being taken out on multiple levels. Many things are changing. Technology is changing, the way it's being addressed, the way marketing is happening has turned the industry upside down. And you're either going to surf this one or you're going to get taken out by it. This one's one of the biggest changes I've seen in the industry. I've been around the business for about 33 years. And this is the one that I think will make the dramatic change that all the others promise to make. Some of the clients I've worked with, I've done a lot of work with a lot of different kinds of brands. I like to think of it as curiosity. We spend a lot of time studying, understanding, learning what makes these brands work, what makes them actually succeed. And when we come down to it, we start learning there are some commonalities between success stories. There are certain things that work and certain things that don't. But we also have this common phrase we often say, I know at least half my advertising works, I just don't know which half. And it's been around for a long, long time. It's a statement that we still say, and it's because our technology is not quite refined yet. I get calls, have an advertising agency named Dana Bryan Advertising. I get calls all the time from people saying, I want to know how many times do I need to run this ad in this particular channel, in that ad in that particular channel to get my cost per sale. I want to know what my return on ad spend is. What is my ROAS? And we are trying to get down to what we call performance marketing. So we know exactly what our advertising does when it performs. And often, this is a meticulous process that eludes us. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're going to get better ideas around what does work, what doesn't work. We started with AI, and the first question I wanted to ask is, what's going to happen in the next 20 years because of AI? So I asked AI. And it turns out what AI says will happen, it started doing some calculations. It started doing numbers about the future probabilities. And it said there will be infinitely more efficient execution by AI than humans. Humans will be replaced, okay? So you talk about it, you hear about it, but AI here has got it all figured out. It actually predicts the dates and by when we get replaced. So by 2025, AI dominates all ad targeting and creative testing. If you don't know this, Facebook and Google are already using AI to target better and test better. This is already happening. There's nothing new here. By 2030, 80% of marketing roles will go away. How many people in marketing in the room? 80% of this room within 5 years. By 2035, fully autonomous AI-driven campaigns across all media. 2040, ad agencies will be replaced. What am I doing? I'm actually here as an ad agency trying to find my way into this future. And by 2045, surpass all human marketing strategy entirely. So this is what AI says. Is AI always right? Well, sometimes AI creates six-fingered humans. So we can only take this with a certain grain of salt. And I was talking with one of the members here at this group, and we were saying, well, what happens when everybody has AI? How do you compete in that environment when you're all canceling each other out with the best practices in AI? Eventually, a human has to disrupt the system. A human has to say, what are we going to do differently? What are we going to do better? What are we going to do more of? What are we going to do less of? Choices. We have to get back to that again. AI will inform us, but it won't tell us exactly what to do. So surfing the black wave is about the idea of a digital age transition, and it takes a story from the tsunami that hit Japan in 2011. There was this massive tsunami, and in this one town, there was what they call the miracle of Kamayashi. In this town, 80% of the population was saved, and we didn't know why. At first, they looked at all these other shoreline towns, and they said there's a lot of difference in this town. This town had a life expectancy that went way beyond what the others did. And there was this school that was on the shoreline of the tsunami. It was completely gone. The kids were in class, but the school was gone. And 100% of the students lived. And all of their families lived in that neighborhood. So the scientists started studying to figure out what happened here, what caused this miracle of Kamayashi. And there was a guy who was out there apparently teaching the kids something. His name was Toshitaka Katada. He was a professor out there, and he was teaching the kids how to survive a tsunami. So today we're going to have lessons from Toshitaka Katada, how to survive a tsunami. The first thing that he taught the kids is don't follow the hazard maps. Don't put faith in those maps that say go left, go right, then turn over here, because what happens is in a tsunami, the pathways change. Waterways cross, and there's no way to get to the place you're supposed to get to. So the first thing these kids were taught is to train them to be leaders, not to be followers. He said, don't follow someone else. Don't even listen to your teacher. You follow the principles. So follow the principles, not the pathways. The thing about technology, and I've been through several transitions. I was there when the interwebs showed up. I was actually a keyliner as an art director in an ad agency using photo emulsion material. I'm that old. And eventually the internet showed up, and we had to make ads using the internet. And then social media showed up, and we had to find a way to use social media to sell stuff. And every time a new technology came, we had to emerge in new ways. But there were principles. There were patterns you could follow. There were thoughts you could lead on. And these are the principles we're going to talk about. One of the things he said to the students, he said, I told the students they must be brave and be the first ones to evacuate. If you do, others will follow you, and you can save their lives too. And that's exactly what happened. So it turns out what happened was these kids were activated, they were motivated, and they went out and they said, I have to save someone else. In some of the other schools, the kids were taught to save themselves. In the schools where they were taught to save themselves, when the tsunami came, the alarms started happening, they quivered in fear. They cowered. They were afraid to move. They didn't jump up and do anything. The kids that were taught to motivate and activate as a leader and to save someone else grabbed a kid's hand, pulled a kid and put him on their shoulder, and went to the neighborhoods and started knocking on doors to save their grandmothers. And in those towns, the kids were saved, and the families were saved of those kids because they acted as leaders. What I'm going to challenge each one of you is to say, okay, let's not do this wait and see thing about AI. Let's not do the safe route with AI. Well, let's see what the lawyers have to say. We've got, well, maybe we can use Copilot, but we have to only at a limited level. Let's make sure that we are careful in how we use AI. We can be so careful that we're going to not lead. It's just that simple. When you hesitate, you're not going to lead. And I'm going to introduce 3 lessons of Blackwave surfing. The first thing is that you have to realize in towns like in Japan, they had sirens so often that they didn't even take them seriously. They just didn't, when sirens would happen every week, they say, don't bother, it's just another tsunami. It's just another fake tsunami. They don't actually come. And so they didn't take it real seriously. So that's part of what happened. People didn't even get up and move is what happened in some of these towns. Imagine you're in a boat. Now, a lot of the boats were highly affected in this marketplace. Now, imagine you are part of this tsunami event. You are captains of a ship. Your ship is your company. Maybe there's 20 employees, maybe there's 1,000, maybe there's 100,000 employees you're responsible for. This captain is responsible for thousands of employees. And he sees on the shoreline a plume of smoke. He hears the sirens. Okay, what do we do? Do we sit and do we wait and do we anchor in? Do we hold and call friends and ask what to do? The answer to this particular captain would be to move out to higher ground or go out to sea. You either got to get your people off the boat real quick, get them up to higher ground, or go out to sea. It turns out it's faster for these boats to just head out to sea. So if you don't, this is kind of what happens. And it is no small thing to clean up that mess once you've not gone out to sea. When you go out to sea, apparently that ripple, it just comes in, a little ripple follows through, and you head out there and the wave never affects you. It's when you're near the shore that it affects you. When you're holding on, you're anchoring in, you're saying, this is the way we do things here. We've never done things new this way. When those who adventure go out to sea, they survive it. Those who don't have to face those consequences. This is the shift. To give you an idea what they're projecting is that as more and more of this wave arises, more of the AI takes over more of the human jobs, there's going to be more of the platform managers emerging. You'll see more platform managers. So instead of being a thought leader, strategic planner, many of us will be living in a platform and managing through a platform. Some of us are doing that already today. Some people in this room are nodding furiously saying, I have a really good partner, and it's my ChatGPT, or it's my Copilot, or whatever technology you're using. And as we get more and more capability in this space, you'll be doing less of the thinking and more of the accepting, approving, reviewing, and making sure that it makes sense. Your wisdom is what the thing is going to need. So is it possible to surf a tsunami, like a massive tsunami? I'm going to give you a little inspiration for a second here. I'm going to show you a guy named Garrett McNamara. Garrett McNamara surfed now to give you a perspective, the tsunamis, the greatest tsunamis that hit Japan were at 70 feet. That's a 90-foot wave, and he surfed it. So there is absolutely a possibility to survive a shift that is beyond our imagination. So Garrett McNamara is famous for doing this. There are others who have done it. There's actually a story of some guys who, when a tsunami was coming, they were out there surfing, and they decided instead of running into shore, they would go out to sea on their surfboards and get on the other side of it. And they survived. And their friends who stayed on the shoreline were lost. So sometimes you just got to be willing to go for it. Lesson number 2, waves come in sets of 3. I'll give you a sense of what the shift looks like. And there's always a consumerism behind a major shift. The first wave was after thousands of years, our agricultural society was disrupted by a desire to have more things, more stuff. And the industrial age was born that allowed more and more people to have access. I come from the town of Henry Ford in downtown Detroit, and he said, it's not right that only rich people should have cars. Everyone should have one. There's got to be a way to manufacture them affordably so everybody can. And that kind of thinking birthed the industrial age. Then someone came along and said, well, this information technology is so strong. It's not right that only the powerful and the rich and the large corporate offices have this technology. We should democratize information, make it available to everyone, so there's no limitations for anyone. The third wave, and every wave comes in, if you study the waves that surfers study, it comes in these sets of 3. The third one's always the biggest. It's the wave that says, okay, these other 2 are cute, but there's something really, really big coming in next. We call this a participation age. The participation age is the ultimate end where every consumer can have any product, anything they want, any way they want it. And they get to participate by sharing, having their own TV channels. We already see this with social media, their own influencer. They're going to be their own news network. They want to have a participation in society. What does that look like? Well, I'll start with this. You already described Ford as the automotive or the automation industry. You look at Apple now bringing that. With the participation age, it's ChatGPT. It's the technologies that give us the ability to have a superpower. Anyone can have one. And I'll give you a sense of what that looks like. If we can get a little audio on this one. We've all seen it. Everything comes out of movies. We see it in a movie, and then next thing you know, 20 years later, it's real.
Can you fly that thing?
Not yet.
Operator.
Tank, I need a pilot program for a B-212 helicopter. Hurry. Let's go.
Anybody familiar with that? It's so, when you get into a ChatGPT or you get into your technology, Suddenly I want to have a superpower. I don't care what I want to know. I'm going to know it. I'm going to be a doctor in a few minutes, help my kid. We have this information. And sure enough, I was with my lawyer recently, and he was writing a very complex document. And I said, can you help me figure out how to word this? He pulls up his chat, and he says, I need something that does this. He copies it and pastes it straight into my contract, right in front of me, not changing a word. I said, you do that? Because I could do that. But that's happening. And we're seeing it happen all the time, that the technology is within a couple words. You go back in, you change a couple words. It's getting very, very close. If it can do that, then why can't it tell us where advertising is working, where advertising doesn't? This is the practical part of the presentation. We need to know what's working in our ad funnel, which part of it is delivering. Now, if you listen to Google, you would learn that TV doesn't work, radio doesn't work, nothing works but Google. They're brilliant. Google Analytics. It's a funny thing because Google Analytics, I learned this, they built their algorithm to really, really study and find how well Google does. And it doesn't bother looking at anything else. So we look at our Google Analytics and we think we have answers, but we don't. We don't have the full funnel. We don't see what's going on in every aspect of it. So we started doing market tests with our clients. We work in franchise business. So in one market, we would say, okay, let's run a full funnel marketing campaign with TV, radio, print. The next one, let's just do bottom funnel performance marketing, just the stuff you can measure. Guess which one won? The performance marketing didn't win, hint, hint. There is still an aspect of unmeasured content that actually drives results. And so we had to do math around this. We had to say, okay, if, for example, you're running a Hulu ad that nobody clicked on, and someone drove into our store and probably bought something, now we've got to connect those dots. We know they watched the commercial. We know they drove into the store. We have to find a way to do what we call attribution. Now, the algorithm is so complex and the data around this is so complex. You need big data and you need AI to do it. And it's coming. Here's what you're trying to figure out. The millions of dollars being wasted. The embarrassing lack of frontlines campaigns. And I'm going to tell you about the importance of frontlines campaigns. When you're running an ad or doing a campaign at the local level, you're a bank or you're a Chick-fil-A, I'll show you an example from a franchise client of ours, or a pizza shop, when that local operator is doing something specifically in their market, they're going to outperform, sometimes by a 10x factor. So you got to give them tools. But if you give them tools to get the Wild West and do whatever they want at the local level, you're going to have an embarrassing lack of consistency. You're not going to have any compliance. You're going to have fragmented campaigns because the local activators are doing things all over the place. And then you have legal risks. If someone forgets the disclaimer at the local level and someone places an ad they weren't supposed to or use data inappropriately, it's like $50,000 per violation. It's not cheap. It's about $2,500 per member on the list of data that you've created when that goes out. So we, as an agency, Daniel Bryan Advertising, we suddenly realized we needed to go from a service-based business to a technology business. We had to somehow, and we learned this from one of the clients we worked with, Domino's Pizza. Domino's Pizza came out and said, we are no longer a pizza company. We're a technology company that sells pizza. And they made this decision a long time ago. And a lot of pizza companies said, you go do that. That's great. We're going to stick with our core competency until they got beaten by this technology, by the technology Domino's is winning at. So we made the decision, we're not just a service business, we're going to be a technology business. So we built this technology called AdBox. And I'm going to show you why you use a technology to build your advertising. These are some of the things that you see in franchising. We built over the course of years tools so that the local operator of a store, again, this could be a bank, it could be a medical center. How many people have multi-location services businesses that you work with? So at the local level, you can activate content and you can do it through automation. And if you do it right, you're going to have more effective tools. This is the concept here. So you come to the technology, it gives you everything, push a button, you get ads at the local level. Because what we've learned is the franchisee who's running a pizza shop just wants to make pizza. The banker wants to just make loans. They don't want to get out and spend a lot of times crafting a campaign. But if you give them a push of a button to do something to activate at the local level, and you've done all the pre-work for them, They will love their customer above and beyond, and that's a key word. When you love your customer at the local level, they feel it. When you love it at a branded level, at the national level, it's inauthentic. And so you give them the tools at the local level to do this. What does that look like? So this is what it looks like. You get inside there and you say, okay, I just want to pick the ad that I'm going to run for my pizza shop. You pick the ad. Then you say, I'd like to pick the level of campaign I'd like to run. Then you pick that campaign. Now you can go in there and you can say, I want to customize this. I'd like to change my ad for the local level and have an offer, a 2-for-2 offer. And then you get all the ads made. And so this is all what technology can do. Technology can take that data and now spread it to all the 50 different resizes for that local brand to run their campaign. You approve the parameters, all the channels, then you get to come back and see if it's working. And what you have the obligation with technology is now you get to see which ads work, which ads don't. And we're adding inside of that the algorithm giving an attribution back to the branding, back to the things that should have been there a long time ago. We're now giving that attribution back there so you can say it's working or not working. I'll give you an example of a client in banking. This is Kasasa checking accounts. They're an embedded product. They offer it to the local banks, so the banks can now have a cashback checking account. And yet it's not branded Kasasa, it's branded by that bank. So they have 600 different banks. That means they have 600 different logos, 600 different disclaimers, 600 different interest rates that they're offering. And then they have 50 different resizes. They had to make, of these ads, when they go in there and they pick their ad, that ad has to make 30,000 variants this year. So that's technology that allows you to automate and localize and give that power at the local level. And then they can go in their ad results and they can say, okay, what's happening with it? Is it working? And it'll give you the insights to say you need to reduce Facebook, increase Instagram because the results are there. Personalization. This is another thing you're going to do with technology. You're going to personalize your ads. And when you have product catalog matching, you have in the automotive industry the ability to do this. So you have an individual looking for an SUV. You know they're looking for an SUV because you have a customer intent algorithm. You can track them. So now when they come in there, you can offer them the actual vehicle. If they're looking for SUV, here's the SUV. By the way, pulled from our inventory this morning, and it's for $49,000. You can buy it today, and tomorrow when it's purchased and it's off the lot, the ad stops running. So it's now tracking to your inventory. Inventory feed into your ad campaign, thousands of ads being made in real time by the system, by the computer. This is automating for scale. When you do this properly, and this is a real data set, the campaign that was running personalized had $119 cost per car sold. Now to give you an idea, Carvana is at about $1,000 cost per car sold, so this is 10 times more effective. You look at the branded generic ad, and it's going to cost you about $3,500 to sell a car. There's no margin in that. You can't make that work. And this is where half my advertising doesn't work. This is where we get to say, okay, I found it. Advertising that works. When you customize it, when you localize it, when you personalize it, that's the money that works. This over here is just not pulling it because it's too generic. It's too broad. It's not connecting to the individual. Lesson number 3. Purpose floats. When I mentioned earlier the idea that you need to have a sense of values and purpose and love for your customer, when you do this right, it works regardless of the technologies. And again, Katata said you can save their lives too. You can make a difference. When you activate these, let's say the students, they're creating multiple points of saving people. If you're out putting it on the teacher in that school, teacher can't run around and get everybody. As CMOs in the room, you can't run around and fix everything. The brand budget can't run around and do everything. But if you give it to the local activation, if you give it to the kids, they will run out and they'll make things happen. But you just have to give them values. If you do it right, we get a phenomenon we call rational advocacy. Some of you may know what that looks like. It's people who will paint the color of their face around the brand they believe in. They'll show up the night before at a Chick-fil-A store, and they'll camp out in this. It's a real photo. And why do they have these raving fans? We've been a part of working with that brand for quite some time, and one of the things we learned is that it had a very specific call to action. This is what the assignment was when we met with Chick-fil-A. They said, don't sell the chicken, love the people. If you love the people, the chicken will sell itself. Simple idea. Principles. Follow principles, not pathways. Okay, so how do we love more people with technology? How do we scale loving more people? How do we do that well? That was the question we were given. That was the technology we had to build. We learned about one store who was doing it really, really well. There was a store in Florida that was doing a daddy-daughter date night, inviting the families out to a candlelit table, and dads and daughters are taking photos. Mom set it up, by the way. Dad shows up, and he's the hero. We all know, right? Mom sets it up, but Dad shows up, and he's the hero. And then Dad takes the photos as evidence. Look what I did. I was a good dad today. And this is what happens when that happens. They get the resources. They get, like, guides, how to talk to your daughter while you're having a dinner tonight. And then we did the same thing with moms. Moms had a mother-son date night as well. And these things lit up within Chick-fil-A stores. Now, how do you get that to happen across multiple stores, multiple events? You're creating now the family dinner and a mystery, the stuffed animal sleepover. Brilliant idea. One store thought of this. Have the kids drop off a stuffed animal, have them all drop them off one night, and the next morning they get photos of all their friends in their photos with the other kids who dropped off the animals. 2 sales. You get one at dinner and you follow up the next day to get the rest. So we built the technology. The technology scales love. It's called Center Stage. Center Stage is the technology that Chick-fil-A uses now to automate all of these things. If you're a local store operator, and by the way, they have marketing directors in every single Chick-fil-A. Someone who is handing you or doing the pepper grinder, or they're handing you your food, there's a marketing manager in that room. And so do your local operators have marketing managers? Are they activating locally? And then are you giving them the tools to simplify and amplify love at the local level? So we have 3 lessons today. Don't hesitate. Do not fear. Do not let the lawyers guide your dreams. I'm telling you, they don't have any. Their first objective is to get you to stop dreaming, because dreamings are dangerous. So you got to now look at the opportunity in front of you, not the risk alone. Maybe you have to break out a side group. Maybe you have to separate from the main business. But you have to find a way to get innovative. Second, waves come in sets of 3. This is the big one. This is the wave that is shifting culture, because consumer power is here, and technology is empowering more than they've ever had before. Consumerism, we used the word back in the 90s. This is consumerism on steroids. They're going to be able to accomplish anything they want, and we need to be a part of this wave. And then ultimately, purpose floats. So this is the book. If you'd like to get a free download of the audio book, you can take it up here from the QR code. I'd be happy to talk to any of you about your technologies, about how you're empowering your local frontliners. That's our specialty. We love helping the frontliners love and expand that relationship at the front lines of your business. So technology is the solution to that. And I'm at 29 seconds, so I have 29 minutes, so I think we're good. Any questions before I jump off the stage? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you in the lights. Yeah, go for it.
So it's a real-time feedback session. I got pinged by the CEO of my company saying, I've heard you've been doing some great things with AI, so I'm obviously out there, YOLO, just doing it. Communicating to that level, and this is, again, a $400 million company, right? He's the new CEO, and I think he's looking for people who are just going out there and doing it. How would you, not you specifically, but maybe a framework for handling that CEO level conversation? Because he's been there, done that. He's led multiple businesses,
Right.
400 million to $1 billion. Talk about how do you
Right.
carry that? And I asked him, do you like written, verbal, video? I'm trying to figure out what his tone or style is, because then I'll both generate as well as create things.
Yeah.
So like, how do you, if you get a ping from a CEO tomorrow, how would you approach that thematically?
Great question. Well, I try to get a meeting with them, because eye to eye is always going to be best, right? You would definitely want to bring case study evidence of results, of time saved, money saved, job positions that would be reduced in stress load. I would bring real hard facts. I would say what it looks like when it scales. So you're able to reduce cost among this test group. If we take that same thing, we scale it up, guess what we could do? You know, I like tests. Like, for example, Chick-fil-A had the one store. They were outperforming all the other stores by, I think it was 50%. We went to them and said, why are you succeeding? And it was the daddy-daughter date night store. So we said, okay, what else are you doing? So I would look at those case studies that are success and then find ways to scale that. But use your evidence. What have you done? Bring them evidence.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.